During the colonial era, European powers such as Britain, Spain, France, and Portugal engaged in the exploitation of African countries, resulting in the plundering of their resources and wealth. Additionally, African individuals were subjected to enslavement and transported to Europe and the Americas as slaves, marking a period characterized by inhumanity and brutality. However, upon the attainment of independence by African nations and the subsequent request for European colonizers to depart, it was believed that the exploitation would cease. Nevertheless, the reality is that instead of employing overt abuse, European powers like France resorted to covert tactics to perpetuate the exploitation of French-speaking African countries. This involved collaborating with the presidents and ruling classes in these nations. African countries have historically been subject to significant influence from France, primarily serving French interests. However, a series of coups has recently emerged in Africa, particularly in Francophone African nations. These coups have been motivated by a desire to counter French influence and prevent further exploitation of resources by French-backed presidents. As a result, the military has assumed control, thereby increasing the likelihood of additional coups in Francophone African countries. This trend suggests a potential loss for France, which has long relied on African resources for its own economic growth. Consequently, it is plausible that France may emerge as the primary loser in the ongoing coups in Africa. The manner in which this outcome will materialize, however, remains a subject of inquiry. Let us examine the recent events surrounding President Ali Bongo of Gabon, who successfully secured an extension of his 14-year tenure following the declaration by the Electoral Commission that he emerged as the victor in the recent presidential election. This victory further solidified his family's 56-year hold on power in the country. However, a group of rebel soldiers staged a coup on Wednesday, contending that the elections failed to meet the necessary criteria for a transparent, credible, and inclusive ballot, as desired by the Gabonese populace. This occurrence deviated from the norm, as such events have been infrequent in the past. The underlying reason for this coup was relatively straightforward. The newly elected president had developed strong ties with France, prioritizing French interests over those of the Gabonese people. This created tensions that necessitated resolution through one means or another. The coup was announced via a live broadcast. The military officers self-identified as members of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, CTRI, and proclaimed that Gabon was experiencing a severe political crisis. The authors posited that the decline of social cohesion resulting from inept governance posed a significant threat of societal upheaval in the nation. Consequently, they made the decision to terminate the present regime in order to safeguard peace. Despite the Western powers' inclination to label this coup as undemocratic, they have yet to provide viable solutions to the challenges faced by Gabon. Nevertheless, they possess an understanding of the underlying causes of these crises. The anticipation of coups in Africa, particularly in Francophone African countries, has been driven by factors such as poverty, corruption, and compromise on national interests. The ruling class in these countries has been perceived to align itself with France, enjoying privileged lifestyles while the general population suffers from widespread poverty. In Gabon, citizens have long harbored a sense of discontent, as previous elections have been fiercely disputed and marked by episodes of violence. Throughout history, France has consistently pursued the objective of installing compliant presidents in Francophone African nations. This strategic approach has enabled France to effectively advance its own interests. To assure the desired outcome, several methods have been employed, including exerting influence to ensure that the candidate supported by France emerges victorious in elections. This pattern is exemplified by the instance of Ali Bongo, whose family possesses significant assets in France, indicative of their affluent status. With the occurrence of this coup, a significant event unfolded as the military exhibited a rare instance of opposition toward the long-standing Bongo dynasty, which has maintained its authority since the year 1967. Notably, Ali Bongo's father, Omar Bongo, was renowned for his practice of patronage and the acquisition of political adversaries by financial means. The period during which France has served as Africa's constable appears to be approaching its conclusion. According to a former United States envoy for Africa's Sahel region, it is argued that in previous times, during the era of Franc or Frique, such a coup would not have occurred, and if it did, it would have been promptly reversed. However, the current situation is different as France has chosen not to intervene, as it now recognizes that Gabon and other African nations collectively possess increased power. These nations now have the ability to determine their preferred alignments, which has led to considerations of China and Russia as potential African allies. Over the past 3 years, a common thread has emerged, connecting coups in 4 African countries, all of which were formerly French colonies. Some, like Gabon, have maintained close ties with France. The president of Gabon, Ali Bongo Ondimba, hails from a family that has held power in the oil-rich nation for more than 50 years. Prior to the recent coup, President Bongo had a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. Since decolonization, France has maintained its influence and reaped advantages in Africa, which has often faced opposition. Leaders supported by France have frequently regained power. However, France is currently refusing to be involved in the situation. Last year, President Macron made the decision to withdraw French troops from Mali due to tensions with the ruling Juna party following a coup in 2020. More recently, French troops were also withdrawn from Burkina Faso for similar reasons. Additionally, France suspended military operations with the Central African Republic, accusing its government of failing to address a significant anti-French disinformation campaign. Unlike his predecessors, Macron has chosen not to initiate new French military operations in Africa. Instead, he has emphasized a partnership approach, recognizing that he lacks alternative options. Previously, the relationship between France and African countries was characterized by inequality. However, Macron's approach aims to establish a more equitable dynamic, where African countries have an equal voice to that of France. In the past, France would often fuel conflict in the Central African Republic and exert pressure on authorities to hinder the implementation of effective development policies. However, the current situation has undergone a complete transformation, resulting in France losing all direct or indirect influence in Gabon. The Bongo family has established long-standing and profound connections with France through multiple generations, exemplifying a local dynasty in France characterized by corruption, French corporate affiliations, and a superficial adherence to democratic principles. According to the late Jacques Follard, an enigmatic and influential French bureaucrat, it was suggested that in the mid-1980s, the younger Bongo, while residing in Paris, covertly proposed the concept of implementing a constitutional monarchy in Gabon. Fortunately, France declined this proposition, as it would have entailed a renewed period of colonization. President Macron has refrained from making any public statements regarding the situation in Gabon subsequent to the recent coup. Several presidents who have served for extended periods in former French colonies still maintain their positions, amassing a combined tenure of 122 years. Notably, Paul Biya of Cameroon has been in power for 41 years. Denis Sassou Nguesso and Gesso are individuals from the Republic of Congo, both of whom are 39 years old. Ismael Omar Guelleh from Djibouti, aged 24, and Farnassing D from Togo, aged 18, are currently facing a critical situation. They are confronted with the decision to either leave France voluntarily or confront comparable political upheavals. It appears highly likely that, on this occasion, the conclusion of Françafrique will not be announced by a French president. Africa is poised to lead France in the cessation of paternalism and the adoption of a fresh perspective. It is worth considering whether an increase in coup d'état will occur in francophone African nations. The imminent demise of neo-colonialism, which marks the end of Europe's era of exploitation, is a topic worthy of discussion. We invite you to share your thoughts on this matter in the comment section below. Additionally, if you desire more content similar to this, please subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell. Our channel aims to shed light on often overlooked subjects such as the rich history, culture, and achievements of the Black community. For more melanin-rich content, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to your continued support.